the whole that you have to show up to the altar. And I didn't have mixed feelings about it because after watching a lot of seasons, I really felt like that was an element. Like they show up and little they say yes, and people they say no. But once you find out that it's really incumbent on you to show up, it also takes away a little bit from the mystery. It's really like it kind of actually agrees with some of the things you see along the way because you see couples kind of like not looking like they're going to progress their marriage, and you know they don't even seem happy. So you're like, why would they show up? But knowing that they have to show up, you kind of understand that part. So I kind of have mixed feelings about it because from the show's perspective, I see why that would be an element. Because what do they really have otherwise? It
Hmm.
makes sense, and they don't say you have to say yes. So to me, it's not an unfair clause. You agree to show up unless something's going on between you and the other person that would make it really like a bad situation for you to show up. And that's where I think the contract could have nuance. Like they could, they thought about a lot of things. They could think about things that would be difficult or negative for the participant and put some protection in there. So they could have said, if the relationship is, I don't know the exact language, but if you don't feel safe, maybe you don't have to go because it is a little bit like shameful for someone to show up to the altar and maybe that person was really disrespectful or abusive or just, like it is crazy to show up and wait for your decision
Hmm.
when you're in that kind of situation. So I think I understood the clause. It wasn't crazy to me, but they could have done more for you as a participant in that clause. That part was, interesting to me. Also, when you want to back out, the fact that you need to give them what they deem a reasonable excuse, and your vote of parentheses, if you want to leave, it's got to be an emergency level, either a personal emergency or family emergency, and that ultimately they decide whether it meets their reasonable test.
Right.
Well, to me, that just leaves it way too open because let's say you bring whatever your reasons to them, they have full discretion. And then obviously there's that potential $50,000 fine, which they say that now they don't have anymore. But in the season 5 contract, it's still there. So I don't know because I think that only happened for season 6 before these lawsuits came out from season 5. So I'm not 100% sure that it's not still there. But to like what's ever public knowledge, as far as I know, it's in season 5 contract. And yeah, you risk the $50,000 fine if you want to leave. And that kind of ties back to the whole, some of these lawsuits, the plaintiffs say they were falsely imprisoned. I know when I did a reading on that, people were like, falsely in prison? Are you crazy? You signed up to be in a pot. But if you have to pay $50,000, which you might not have, your feet are held to the fire. Like, how can you
Hmm.
leave if you don't have that money? Like, that's very scary for a young person.
To give a production company $50,000 that has the hottest reality
Right.
dating show like in the world,
So you're
and
giving
I'm gonna
charity
pay.
to a billionaire. It's crazy.
Right, exactly. And that is totally crazy. And to your point, so season 6, that's North Carolina, season 6 in Charlotte actually filmed in April, May, and maybe June of last year. So
In
there was one
2023.
loss. Yeah, exactly. 2023. There was one lawsuit at the time that was Jeremy's. The second and third came fall of
November and
last year.
January, right?
Yeah. Fall of last year, and maybe January for the other one. So what I have found is I feel like the production company and the people involved there, they're trying to run the press, right? The publicity of it all.
Mhm.
And I don't believe that they're being truthful. I just think they are propagandizing to say this isn't in the contract anymore, because there was a whole story about it. It had to be September because I was traveling for work. Yeah, so it was September of last year when the story came out saying that $50,000 is something that's just legacy reality TV. We've taken it out, and they must have just taken it out, if they did, for the season they were going to be filming in the fall. If Because if they were filming in the spring and it's still in there in the contract you've read, then they wouldn't have had any provoking to remove it yet at that time.
That was exactly my theory. Like, they claim it's no longer in their contract, and it might be true. I can't say yes or no, but it definitely is in the season 5 contract. And I've seen that contract in 2 different instances, and it's been authenticated, because in order for it to be filed in a court proceeding, it has to be authenticated for truthfulness. So we know that that's a real $60,000 fine, is a real part of the contract. We just don't know if it's in the season 6 one. But I do have this theory that perhaps they made it behind the scenes clear to the participants that if, you come to us with your reason why you want to leave, or on a show's the altar, we'll let you. And then thinking about the show's image, so like a story like this season's Lauren, okay, her, fiance that he may or may not have cheated, but he stayed out all night with another woman. The show is going to look crazy if she shows up. When is she going to show up? With tears and red eyes? Like, she's obviously not going to say yes. The show would look crazy, and it would actually delegitimize the show. So there we lies to let certain storylines not continue to play out when it just looks foolish. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all.
What works for them, when it works better for them to let you leave, is when they let you leave.
Exactly. And I thought in the reunion, Nick and Vanessa were working overtime to make sure that this show looks like it is only out for true love and there's no ulterior motives. I felt like that was underlying the entire reunion, that message. And
I think what's funny is you read the comments and the stuff people say about the season, and they're, for the most part, and what is the right reason now? I think there's a debate to be had there. I used to say the right reason is to find love, right? That's what they sold me on, that this was different, that it wasn't about clout, that they were looking for regular people that wanted to get married and were ready and all this stuff. But it makes you wonder, like, what's casting's responsibility, right? Like, why do you go through psych evaluations? Why do you go through all of this time sharing all of the things you're looking for in a partner and your details of your past relationships, of what worked and what didn't work? Like, if they can't decipher through that, if the real reason is to help people find love, then how do you decipher, or how do you justify putting people that are clearly not there for marriage into these roles, and then kind of like revert back to them and be like, you guys did this wrong. You're supposed to come for love and that whole underlying experience you're talking about. Like, it just doesn't add up to me.
Yeah, I actually was thinking about the whole background check and psych eval concept a lot, because in the contract they actually say that you must agree to a background check and psych eval. And I'm actually curious, like, do they for sure do it? Because when I read that from like a critical lens, I thought, you must agree to it, but we are not promising everyone you will date has undergone one. So like, it wasn't like a mutual promise. It wasn't like whoever you will meet in this experience will have undergone a thorough background check and a thorough psych eval. But it was saying you agree to be subject to one, because then you see some people on the show, you're like, they seem like a psychopath. Like, how did this person get through? And then sometimes people, like, some people aren't even crazy. Like you said, some people just are very, like, clear in the communication that they're not that desperate to get married. And it's almost like the person that they're with has to, like, sell them on marriage. And you're like, hey, why would you do a show that's 100% geared toward marriage and you don't even know if you want to get married? That doesn't make any sense at all.